Hi, I'm Jim, your guide on this journey to uncover the hidden psychology behind love and relationships. If you've ever wondered, why does someone who once seemed so into me suddenly disappear? Why does chasing them make me feel like I'm losing my worth? Then this video is for you. Today, we're diving deep into a powerful and often misunderstood topic: why avoidant partners often come back when their ego is challenged. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding the psychological mechanism that keeps you trapped in the painful cycle of pursuit, rejection, and disappointment, and learning how to break free. Most people believe the way to keep an avoidant is to show more patience and give more love. But the truth is the opposite. The harder you chase, the more you reinforce the very ego they use to create distance. In this video, we'll break down the avoidant cycle step by step, explain why they pull away, and what actually happens in their mind when you stop chasing. You'll see why boundaries and self-respect have more power than any amount of pleading or persuasion. Stay with me until the end, because I'll share how to tell the difference between an avoidant coming back out of genuine vulnerability versus simply trying to repair their ego, and more importantly, how you can step into any relationship from a place of self-worth without losing yourself. If you're ready to stop suffering in love and start building healthy, secure connections, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. This video could change the way you see love and, more importantly, the way you see yourself. Have you ever felt confused when someone who once seemed completely into you texting you constantly, pulling you into their world, suddenly becomes distant and cold? It's not because you did something wrong. It's because they operate under a very specific psychological pattern, the core contradiction of the avoidant attachment style. Understanding this is the key to stop blaming yourself, break the cycle of hurt, and reclaim your power in love. Avoidant individuals live in a paradox that's both exhausting and heartbreaking. They crave connection, but fear intimacy. Deep down, they long to love and be loved just like anyone else. But the moment things start feeling too close, their internal alarm system goes off. Danger, loss of freedom, loss of control. Their fear of being hurt, fear of dependency, fear of losing themselves drives them to subconsciously create distance. Picture this: you've just shared an amazing, intimate moment with them. Everything seems perfect. You think, finally, we're moving forward. But just as you start to feel safe, they begin to withdraw. The long texts stop. The excitement fades. Their replies become shorter. They disappear altogether. To you, it feels irrational. To them, it feels like survival. Every step back gives them a sense of independence, something they treat as essential for emotional safety. To truly grasp this, we need to understand the avoidant ego structure. It's built on a deeply rooted belief: I don't need anyone. I'm not like those people who depend on love. I'm stronger, more rational, and I have more options than others. This belief isn't just a thought, it's a psychological survival mechanism. Deep inside, they fear being hurt so much that they construct an impenetrable wall called self-sufficiency. They'll protect that wall at all costs, even if it means sabotaging a relationship that's going well. And here's where most people get stuck. The harder you try to prove your love, the more you chase to reassure them, the stronger that wall becomes. They don't see your efforts as love, they see them as confirmation of their worldview. See, I'm the prize, I hold the power. I don't need to try because they'll always be there. And so, the cycle begins. The more you give, the more they pull away. But here's the fascinating part. That core contradiction is also their greatest vulnerability, because they're not as detached as they want you to believe. They still crave connection, but fear and ego keep them from embracing it. And when their familiar strategy stops working, when you stop chasing, stop feeding their ego, their entire defensive system begins to crumble. That's when they're forced to confront a truth they've been running from all along. They need connection far more than they ever admitted. So, what happens after the avoidance internal alarm goes off? This is where they deploy the withdrawal strategy, also known as the deactivation strategy. In the previous section, we explored their core contradiction: craving connection yet fearing intimacy. Now, let's uncover how they maintain a sense of safety and, at the same time, hold power in the relationship. Avoidants don't pull away randomly. Every act of withdrawal has a purpose: to regulate closeness and avoid feeling emotionally trapped. When they sense you're moving closer toward real intimacy, they immediately take a step back. Not because they dislike you, but because closeness triggers their fear of losing freedom. Creating distance feels like survival to them. But withdrawal isn't just self-protection, it's also a power strategy in the relationship. When they disappear, when they respond coldly, they're sending a silent message. I'm not dependent on you, you're the one who needs me. And here's the trap. Most people fall for this unspoken challenge. You start worrying, questioning yourself, trying harder to win them, backtexting more, lowering your boundaries, doing everything to reassure them. Ironically, every act of pursuit confirms their inner narrative. See, I'm the prize, I hold the power. I don't need to change because they'll always come running. This creates a toxic loop. They withdraw, you chase. They feel powerful, you fear losing them. They keep pulling away to maintain control. You think you're saving the relationship, but in reality, you're feeding their ego and reinforcing the avoidant pattern. The more you play into this cycle, the more you lose two essential things: your self-worth and your sense of autonomy. The moment you start trading your boundaries for scraps of attention, you're no longer an equal partner. You become the one waiting, seeking validation while they rise higher on the power scale, investing less and less. This doesn't just maintain power in the present, it strengthens their internal story. I don't need anyone, I'm in control. I decide when to connect and when to disappear. This is why so many people stay stuck in avoidant relationships, because the dynamic operates like a psychological game. You think if you love harder, wait longer, prove yourself better, they'll finally change. But the truth? Every act of pursuit only convinces them they never have to change. Here's the hard truth that sets you free. You cannot love someone out of their avoidance. No one can. Because their fear isn't your problem to fix, it's a survival strategy they've carried for years. The only thing you can control is your response. When you understand this, you'll see that chasing them means fueling the very system that keeps you apart. Stopping the chase genuinely, not as a mind game, is what dismantles the illusion of power they rely on. And that's the beginning of real change. Because here's what's coming next. When you stop feeding their ego, their entire power structure begins to collapse, leading to confusion, testing, and eventually, an ego crisis. But before we go there, let this truth sink in. Every withdrawal strategy only works if you keep playing your part. When you step out of the game ends. So what happens when you stop chasing? When you don't text, don't over-explain, don't try to prove you're enough. This is where an earthquake hits the avoidant's internal world, because their entire power structure, built on the belief, if I pull away, you'll come running, suddenly collapses. When you stop pursuing, you're not just changing your behavior. You're dismantling the very ego structure that makes them feel safe and superior in the relationship. In their usual script, every time they step back, you step forward. It's a game they believe they'll always win, but when you stop playing, the rules no longer apply. This creates a powerful psychological effect called cognitive dissonance. Their mind starts firing questions they've never faced before. Why aren't they reacting? Am I not as important as I thought? Have they lost interest or found someone else? These questions don't just sting. They threaten the very core beliefs their ego depends on. I'm in control. I'm the prize. I don't need anyone. Your non-pursuit proves the opposite, that they don't hold all the power, and that this connection isn't something they can take for granted. The first phase of this collapse is confusion and testing. You'll notice them reappearing with small signals, a casual text, a like on social media, or a vague check-in. Don't be fooled, this isn't genuine change. It's a test to see if you'll fall back into your old role. If you respond with eagerness, the cycle restarts, and their ego becomes even stronger. But if you remain calm, respond politely, or not at all, you send a silent but powerful message. I don't need to chase you to prove my worth. This hits them where it hurts most. Their deepest fear of being abandoned, fear of not mattering. And that's when they experience a full-blown ego crisis. Remember, avoidants aren't as detached as they pretend. When you stop pursuing, they're forced to feel what they've been running from all along: the possibility of losing something valuable. This reality is deeply uncomfortable. It can trigger erratic behaviors, sudden reappearances, unexpected invitations, or even emotional declarations. Not because they've magically changed, but because their old playbook stopped working. Here's the critical part. This is not the moment to drop your boundaries and rush back in. Because even if they return, their motive might be ego repair, not real commitment. If you hand them validation too quickly, you recreate the old cycle. But if you stay grounded and maintain your independence, you give them the rare opportunity to experience something life-changing. That love isn't about power, it's about two people choosing each other with respect and responsibility. So, stopping the chase isn't just a tactic, it's a declaration of your self-worth. It says, I'm willing to love deeply, but I will not lose myself to keep someone who isn't ready. From that place, you're no longer the one trying to be chosen. You become the chooserth person who decides whether this relationship deserves another chance, based on real actions, not empty words. Now you understand why stopping the chase changes the game. And when it does, you'll likely notice something new. The avoidant comes back. But this is where you must stay razor sharp, because not every return is about deep love or genuine transformation. There are two main motives behind this comeback, and knowing which one you're dealing with determines whether you break free from the old cycle or fall right back into it. The first and rarer motive is genuine vulnerability leading to real change. When you stop chasing, they're forced to face their deepest fear, the possibility of losing someone they assumed would always be there. This isn't just mild insecurity, it strikes at the core of their suppressed need for connection. At this stage, you might see them show a level of openness you've never witnessed before. They talk about their fears, admit the pain their withdrawal caused, and even express a desire to do things differently. Someone in this state usually demonstrates clear signs. They listen without defensiveness, initiate conversations about the issues they previously avoided, and most importantly, they follow through with consistent actions to rebuild trust. This is a rare opportunity to build something new, but only if you hold your ground. Don't settle for promises, look for sustained behavioral change. Unfortunately, most comebacks don't fall into this category. They belong to the second motive, ego repair. This happens when your silence shatters the internal story they've relied on. I'm in control. I pull away. They come running. When reality proves otherwise, they feel destabilized and need to restore their sense of power. The easiest way? Pull you back in. Watch closely, because this type of return has telltale signs. They rush the process, push for immediate reconciliation without addressing the core issues, avoid responsibility, and often flip the script to make you feel guilty. Once you soften, they quickly revert to old patterns, cold, distant, and in control again. This isn't real change. It's a power move to patch up their wounded ego. If you fall for it, the cycle resets harder than before and the pain cuts deeper because you feel used. The key is to distinguish between these two motives, and the difference isn't in their words, it's in their behavior. Someone returning from true vulnerability will own their role, be patient while you verify their change, and never pressure you into instant forgiveness. Someone returning for ego repair will be impatient, avoid hard conversations, and focus on regaining control rather than building a new foundation. This is your moment to ask yourself, am I seeing real change through actions, or just hearing the same sweet words? And more importantly, am I choosing them from a place of strength or from fear of loss? Because what you need isn't a rushed reunion, it's a relationship built on respect, transparency, and mutual investment. So when they come back, don't let your heart lead you blindly. Let your boundaries and self-respect guide the way. If you don't see the signs of real transformation, close the door with courage. Not because you're cold, but because you know your worth and you know that true love never asks you to sacrifice it. So how do you know if their return is real change or just an ego-driven attempt to restore control? This is the most critical question because your answer determines whether you break free from the old cycle or step right back into it. And the difference isn't in what they say, it's in what they do and how they handle discomfort. If someone comes back with genuine intent to change, you'll notice 3 unmistakable signs. Owning responsibility. They don't give vague apologies like, I'm sorry if you felt hurt. They say, I understand disappearing hurt you, and I take full responsibility for that. This isn't lip service, it's acknowledgement of impact. Discussing the hard stuff openly. They don't shy away from uncomfortable conversations. They listen to your feelings without defensiveness or blame. They don't say, let's just forget about it and start fresh, because they know healing requires addressing the cracks first. Behavioral change, not empty promises. They don't just say, "I'll do better," then vanish weeks later. They show consistency, keeping commitments, initiating contact, showing up even when it's inconvenient. Real change is measured by patterns, not promises. On the other hand, if their comeback is about ego repair, you'll see very different signals. Avoidance of past issues. They get irritated when you bring up what happened or say things like, "Why can't you just let it go?" This means they want comfort, not growth. Rushing for instant reunion without resolution. You'll hear lines like, "I miss you, let's just get back to how we were," with zero effort to address the real problem. That's urgency to soothe their insecurity, not commitment to change. Blame shifting. If they make you feel guilty for expressing hurt, calling you too sensitive, or accusing you of holding grudges, they're prioritizing ego over connection. Here's the bottom line. Someone truly ready to change will give you time and space to confirm it. Someone seeking ego repair will pressure you for quick reconciliation. One is willing to face discomfort to rebuild trust. The other just wants to slap a band-aid on a crumbling wall. And here's the truth most people avoid. The pain you felt wasn't just because they withdrew, it was because you ignored the signs the first time. But now, you have the tools to recognize the difference. Ask yourself, are they giving me promises or proof? If the answer is promises, step back, because actions are the real language of transformation. Most importantly, remember this: no matter their motive, the power to decide rests with you. You're no longer waiting to be chosen. You're the one choosing whether this relationship deserves your time, energy, and worth. Because healthy love isn't a negotiation rooted in fear. It's a mutual, intentional choice. In the next section, we'll uncover the golden principle to protect yourself when they come back, how to maintain boundaries, preserve independence, and stay grounded even if you still care. This is the key to breaking the cycle and stepping into a new chapter, loving without losing yourself. Here's the ultimate truth you need to hold on to. Love is not a power game, it's a free choice between two people grounded in respect and responsibility. Understanding the avoidant dynamic isn't about learning how to win them back, it's about reclaiming your worth and stepping into love without losing yourself. If they return with sincerity, you'll know how to build a new foundation rooted in transparency and mutual investment. If they return just to repair their ego, you'll have the strength to close that door and move forward without resentment. You can't control their choices, but you can always control how you love, in a way that honors you. Remember the timeless words of Erich Fromm in The Art of Loving. Love is not a simple feeling, but an art. If we want to learn how to love, we must learn it as we learn any other art with knowledge, effort, and practice. True love isn't born from chasing or sacrificing yourself. It comes from self-awareness and emotional maturity. The more you love yourself, the better you can love others without falling into dependency. And that means never trading your self-respect for temporary attention. As Paulo Coelho wrote in Brida, "When you love, you must be free. Because if love costs you your freedom, it is not love, it is dependency." So if you're standing at a crossroads, choose the path where you remain whole. Real love never starts with fear of abandonment, it begins with freedom and choice. If this video gave you clarity, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss future content that helps you love without losing yourself and connect without self-betrayal. And if you've been through something similar, share your story in the comments. We're in this together. Always remember, love is a choice between two whole people, not a race between one who fears closeness and one who fears being left behind.